Hi, it's Sarah. Welcome to another video by the Guardians of the Sim Galaxy. Today we're going to look at a really adorable trend with our spin on it. V made an amazing shell and based it off of a real dollhouse. She started out by setting out the shape of the house and then used the wall tool to mirror the shape of the wall to make it look like it was open like the doors of a dollhouse and that it would really be able to close and be functional. She then deleted the walls that corresponded to those open doors. She deleted the first floor, which left the house floating, and found a really great coffee table from Eco Lifestyle that had perfect dimensions when sized up and really looked like a child's activity table that they'd painted on a bit. She then picked out a really perfect siding from Base Game that really looks like it belongs on a dollhouse. We do tend to change a lot of what the others do, which the other two don't usually mind. We do talk about it if we change a lot, or we just change it back if we don't like it. But we never get mad when one of the other two changes something we've done because we appreciate the other's aesthetic and perspective, and usually what they do looks better with the current product than what we initially thought of. That said, Noomix and I didn't feel the need to change that wallpaper at all. It was too perfect. I'm always impressed when I watch the footage of Vaporeuse and Noomix working. I see the results of what they've done, but not how they've done it or how their minds worked while doing it. When I took the build, the house was nearly finished and all it needed was some furnishings. It's funny to see that V initially put the same wallpaper as I ended up changing it to the kitchen, but I just used the one with the wainscoting. We say a lot that we share a brain, and it really shows when watching her work on the first draft of the build. As much as we hated on the Star Wars Journey to Batuu expansion when it came out, and we all resisted buying it for a while, it has been a savior with so many of our builds. We didn't think there would be anything we would use from it, but we ended up using it in almost all of our builds. Here, V is using a wall item from Journey to Batuu that looks almost exactly like a hinge. I was really impressed when I saw it because I've never used that item and it looks just like a hinge. She started out using some lights from Dine Out to look like a rounded corner, but she ended up using a debug pole, which I later shrunk down and turned at an angle to make it look like there was a bit of a gap. Then of course, she had to make it look dirty. V's favorite thing is making builds that look abandoned or trash or broken. We wanted this dollhouse to look like it was old and maybe passed down through generations, and that it was played with and loved a lot, but it had better days. I wasn't sure who did the sized up items to make the house look small, but it was Noomix. I love the items she placed, and she wanted me to let you know that the generator is there to look like it gives power to the house, Though with the walls open, it will not have power. If you do want the house to work with electricity, add walls and then place large arches over those walls and size them down. It will look the same, but the electricity will work. We didn't do it that way because sometimes when looking at the full house in cinematic mode, a bug will cause not all of the floors to show, and it will look like an empty room with no furniture. If you're playing the game, it won't matter as much, but for our purposes, we created it for show, not for function. You would also need to add some stairs leading up to the house. The new cottage living expansion came out while we were building this, so I had to use those items in the kitchen. They are absolutely perfect for a dollhouse. I never really know how to arrange things, and since there was one whole wall that needed to not have things obscure the rest of the room and be able to see the entire room or most of it from the front, I probably rearranged things about a dozen times before I'm happy with it. And even then, I still feel like there's more to do. Like I said, I wanted all of the important things to be visible from the front, so in some configurations the sink was obscured and in others the stove. I like to put a sink in front of a window because it's always nice to look outside while washing dishes. No one wants to just look at a wall while doing an already tedious task. I started out having quite a few cabinets on the walls, but then removed all but a few along the back wall. I have a tendency to want to clutter up everything, but I had to keep in mind what actually might be in a dollhouse. There are quite a few miniature things that people use for them, but I had to tell myself, okay, how will this look from the front, and how can I make it look more doll-like? I end up later on sizing up a few things just to make it maybe a bit too large for the rooms they're in, just like a lot of doll furniture is. And I intentionally went a little matchy-matchy with the appliances and cabinets. In a regular build, I'd want a bit of contrast, but I wanted things to feel a bit off, like it would not belong in a real house or Sims house. Usually I'll find things when scrolling through the build by items and want to put them in the room I might want to use them in, but because we're filming, I have to try to reduce the amount of flipping back and forth while I'm building. This time I tried to put items I might want to use later in the living room because I'll forget which things I plan to use if I don't put them somewhere. Sometimes if I'm building with a sim living in the house, I will put it in their family inventory, but with tool now usable in build mode, I don't need to have a sim on the lot or owning the house. I do put a sim in later, because I put some mannequins in and you can't dress those in build mode. But then later I evict him and continue with doing everything in build mode. Sorry Dirk Dreamer, you are a great tester sim. I just wanted to make the house a generic lot and I couldn't do it with you in it. Nothing personal. The cottage living expansion was so new when I started working on this that I didn't have time to look at all of the new things. Usually I like to take a look at all of the new furniture and build items and of course the debug items as soon as an expansion comes out. But because I was out of town for 3 weeks visiting family in Florida, I had a lot to catch up on, and I really needed to get to work finishing up the vampire house and start on this build. We have a project that we put on hold for a bit as soon as we found out about cottage living because we knew there would be items that would be perfect for it. Not only the items, but the pawn tool as well. We're not rushing ourselves on this project, so we're going to do a few small ones in the meantime because we really want to enjoy the process. V has been learning a ton of tool tricks and making custom roof and trim items with the help of some tutorials from Phantasms, and Noomix is making sure that we have sections that are dedicated to details that people will feel nostalgic about when they see them. I won't give away too much, but it is based on Noomix's favorite childhood book. It's the one book she still owns in Swedish. The wallpaper I changed the kitchen to is base game, but the one I changed the child bedroom to is new from Cottage Living. It's so cute, but also looks vintage enough to belong in a dollhouse. And yeah, you see there that beds V put in are gone. I wonder if she removed them before she uploaded. We really try to keep track of who has the build at all times. Sometimes there are mistakes and we'll grab the wrong version. She knows I try not to delete things that people do, but repurpose them or move them elsewhere. So she was pretty sure that's what happened. So when she asked me, I felt so bad. Usually when this happens, we'll redo what was missing. That time she said what I did was better, but I still don't want to have something she worked on be lost. We might do things like make something look broken, or change something out for a different item, or remove something that didn't quite fit. But we don't just delete a whole thing someone did without talking to them first about it. I try to build on what the others have done. It's really hard for me to come up with an entire build from scratch. My creativity comes from being inspired by something someone else has done and rolling with it. When I started playing Sims 4, I would remodel the Max's houses and make them a bit more homey for the Sims living there, or grab something off the gallery and make it fit the Sims I was playing with. I wasn't very good at first, and I didn't know about the move object cheats or debug or live edit object. You just start out with what you know and you learn things from watching what other people do, or pushing yourself further. That's why I'm so grateful to have met Noomix and V. I think I moved that spice rack about 6 times. I thought about using mismatched chairs in the kitchen and in other places in the house. A lot of times kids will get doll furniture from multiple sources and they won't all match. But I decided to keep them matching as if the table and chairs came together and the living room lounge chairs were a set. I ended up using quite a lot of the Cottage Living furniture because it's just so cozy and cute. You can see as much as I move things around how particular I am about things. I ended up furnishing most of the rooms other than the parents' room and the little reading area in the attic. V and Noomix don't mind that I did all of the rooms because they can focus on other details or build off of what I did, and furnishing isn't really their favorite thing to do. I'm not always sure of what configuration I want things, which is why I move things around so much. So I do like it when they do the layout of a room, so I could just add little details. But I think I ended up with something okay. Plus, they came in afterwards and put their flair on things. V wanted it to look like maybe it had been played with a bit, so some of the things would be taken out to play with. And she sized up a ball and a coin to make it look like maybe the child's sibling threw a ball and knocked things over. We wanted reminders that this is supposed to feel small, and putting everyday objects around outside the house, as well as inside, really helps with that. I realized that there was no bathroom in this house, which isn't really a problem for dolls, but for Sims, yes. There wasn't really a place for a bathroom, so I put a toilet at the end of the hallway behind the stairs in a 1x1 tile room and put an archway to enter. I placed a curtain for privacy. I decided the wall of the door of the dollhouse should have a matching wallpaper with the corresponding room, but it looked a bit strange with them right next to each other, so I put a debug pole that comes in a few colors between the wallpapers. Later I extended up to the second floor because I realized that someone had already did that with those wallpapers. Same brain. The attic room, I wasn't sure what it was intended for. We had just done kind of a junky attic room for the vampire house, so I didn't want to put discarded things up there, and Noomix made such an adorable reading corner that I decided to make an office, but also put a bit of junk in there. This is when I decided to add mannequins. I chose mannequins of different colors because they felt more like dolls that way, rather than all being the same color or in black and white or gray, like a lot of store displays have. I put Dirk Dreamer in the house as the owner and then made outfits for each of the mannequins. I only did an everyday outfit because that's what you see, but feel free to go crazy with the other outfits if you want to keep them in the house or just get rid of them if you want to have real Sims live in there. V decided to mess up my pristine furnishings. I don't mind this at all, but I did change the locations of some of them. She did say that she meant to put the living room chair outside the house like that, as if someone had played with it, but I just couldn't deal with it halfway in and out like that. Sorry, V. She put the tennis ball up on the parents' bed, and I end up moving that too. I loved the idea, but nothing was out of sorts enough in that room, and from the outside it just looked like a big green blob or a green screen. So I put it more in front and center to appear like I had knocked those chairs over. It makes me laugh to watch this, because I can see her saying, "This is too neat, I must make it messy." She's really great at making things look like they've been lived in, and you can see the story of a build just by details she puts in there without even having to hear it. She wanted me to say that sometimes when you're playing with something, you don't always put it back, so she wanted some things to be out of sorts, as if someone had just been playing there and then had to get up suddenly. I really love the tipped over chair at the stairs. It took everything in me not to put a railing there, but a railing wouldn't be practical to use in a dollhouse because there's limited space and dolls come in many shapes and sizes, so you don't want them getting stuck or having trouble getting them from downstairs to upstairs if you're going to play like they're walking up the stairs. So, no railing. When I take the build back, I rearranged some of the tipped over furniture. I wasn't happy with the bunk bed to start with and wanted to use a different bed, and with it tipped over, there was just too much empty space and we were very limited on space. So I chose a different bed and tried to have it tipped over in a similar way as V had it. Later the bed got deleted when I changed a wallpaper due to a bug in the game, so I put it back and then forgot to size it up. It's okay though, because sometimes there are things of different sizes in a dollhouse. I start to size a lot of things up to really emphasize that the room is small. I want things to take up more space than they should and feel oversized again like it's doll furniture. I decided to take a few of the items from inside the house and put them outside like they were being played with in front of the house. I did try not to clutter things up like I usually do, but it still ended up being a little cluttered, so I removed some of the things and placed them outside and made them big. I wanted to add to the realism feeling that Noomix started with her 2-scale objects. I did put a lump of clay at first, and then it looked like a rock, so I found a debug item that is the clay lump but shaped like a child had tried to make a figure but then stuck a bunch of sticks in it. The generator I placed just beside the house. There was a perfect spot not being used, so I sized it down just slightly and then ran some cables from the cables behind the house so it would look like it was plugged in. I added a chimney stack because I put a fireplace on the inside and we had a chimney on the roof, so it made sense to me to have that. I ended up making that only 2 stories high because it would stick up too high if it was 3. I tried to find a wallpaper that matched the fireplace inside, but Noomix felt like it was too realistic, so she changed it to a stucco. It looks better that way. I then found some decals in the decor picture section that looked like actual stickers, so I sized the ones up that had a white outline and placed those on the outside of the house as if the child had tried to decorate it themselves. Unfortunately, I was mostly limited to cats and dogs because there were only those and the one sticker of the collectible dolls in game, so that's what's on there. Here I've decided that the house needs a bathroom, so I moved the items from the child's room back a little and I removed a few things to make the room for the bathroom. But my idea was that because it's a dollhouse, the bathroom is on the outer door, so when the door opens, the bedroom and the bathroom are accessible to play with, and when it's closed, it will neatly shut into place. I placed the wallpaper for the child's room on the back of the bathroom, and the bathroom wallpaper on the first tile of the hallway, so it would look like the door leads to the bathroom. I was not totally happy with the wallpaper in the bathroom, but I couldn't find anything that screamed dollhouse to me. It works though. I decided to make a bathroom Vaporeuse style because there's a toilet downstairs in the hall, and the bathroom would have no toilet. It only has a sink and a bathtub and a little cabinet for towels and stuff. Noomix added scratches to the stickers and even added cracks to the roof of the house with tulle. I'm really proud of her for her tool work. She's the one of us that has the least tool experience, but she also does the majority of the editing and builds with us, so she doesn't have a lot of time to do all the fiddly stuff. That is stuff that I love doing, so it's totally okay that she hasn't had much time for tool. One time we were making a craft room for a project we were doing. It was our first big build together, and she asked if the game had any sewing machines. I was relatively new to tool, but I had spent a lot of time figuring out for this build because we had made a floating magic school with dormitories and a common area. I said no, but I could make one. I went to see if anyone on the gallery had made one already, and I took it apart to see how they did it, and I recreated my own version of what they'd done because I didn't want to use their work without giving them credit or asking. I did change several things, so it wasn't an exact copy, but I believe I have the sewing machine up on my gallery and I've credited the original creator, but if I haven't, remind me and I'll add that to the comment. It was a lot of fun, and that experience really made me love figuring out how to make things with tool. We're really happy with how this project came out. I hope you love it too. Thanks so much for watching. Now for the walkthrough.